Ako si Rose, 32 years old. At itong anak ko. Kakapanganak ko lang sa kanya noong isang araw. Wala pa siyang pangalan. Hindi ko na itatago. Nakakalungkot na may mga naisip na ako para umiwas sa bigat ng responsibilidad. Lumapit na ako sa mga taong kaya siyang ibenta para sa ilang libo. Handa na rin ako noon na ipalaglag kahit illegal at delikado para sa akin. Labandera kasi ako. At ngayon, onti lang nagpapalabas sa akin. Minsan, sapat pang kita, pero madalas kulang. Pangatlo ko na rin to. Tapos mag-isa lang ako. At kahit gusto ko siyang alagaan, nahihirapan na nga ako sa dalawa at wala pa akong suporta galing sa pamilya ko. Ano na lang ay papang sustento ko sa baby ko. Buti na lang, naglakas loob akong lumapit at humingi ng tulong sa amo ko. Ipinakilala niya ako sa tulong kay nanay at sa Robby Foundation. Ginabayan nila ako sa aking pisikal, medikal at emosyonal na pangangailangan. Ipinaunawa din nila sa akin kung gaano kahalaga ang magiging desisyon ko para sa anak ko. Dahil dito, nakita ko ang aking kakayahan at pinili ko na mismo ang mag-aalaga sa kanya. Ang kwento ko ay isa lang sa maraming kwentong pag-asa ng mga ina na katulad ko. Para sa iba, ang pagpapaampon ng kanilang anak ang mas mabuting desisyon. At hindi yan masama. Nandyan din ang Robby Foundation para gabayan ako na tahakin ang tama at legal na proseso ng pag-ampon ng bata. Pagpapaampon man o pagpiling ipagpatuloy ang pag-alaga sa bata, walang mas angat na desisyon. Ang mahalaga lang, dapat malayo sa peligro ang ina at ang kanyang anak.
Life was good. We were blessed. We had been married for a couple of years. We were enjoying life in Singapore, and we had a baby on the way. These were answers to our prayers. These were sources of comfort. However, comfort does have the habit of slipping away. 5 months in and 1 heartbeat less, we saw the perfect life we pictured slip from our grasp. There was pain, there was brokenness, there was sadness. After months of anticipating joy, we found ourselves in the middle of unimaginable grief. Across Southeast Asia and the Philippines, grief has made itself known to many parents, not due to the loss of a life, but the giving away of one. Soft hands and fragile skin sold to feed mouths and fill pockets for a day. There's no hate in the giving away, only desperation. Desperation brought about by circumstance. Desperation that leads to child trafficking, infant prostitutes, child criminals, abandonment. It's tough to see the demand for such a business at such a high level. Billions of dollars being used to fund the violation of innocent bodies, some too young to even comprehend the pain. Even more, it's tough to know that this is being done in the land we grew up in, right in the city we call home. Our hearts beat for these children, so much so that it beats for a specific one. If we were to be advocates for these children, then we must first be examples. In October 2017, a pregnant mother couldn't keep her child. So with desperation, she searched for someone to be the one to hold her baby in their arms. We wanted to help, and so we did. But we never knew that it would be our hands that God would use to cradle this child. 3 weeks in, and one heartbeat more, we had her in our grasp. Our hearts were filled with love and our souls refashioned. We are no heroes, just followers answering a call. Had we chosen to reject the call, turn our heads away, or hesitate even for a moment, our child would have been one of many whose body has become a commodity. She is one less child prostituted, one less child trafficked, one less child abandoned, one less child lost in the system, one less child victim, one less orphan. But she is just one less. There are millions of children out there who may never have access to a family, access to care, to nourishment, to shelter, to safety, to a childhood. But if more people extended their arms to these children, if the stigma behind adoption was redefined to be a culture of love, then 2 less children would be trafficked, 10 less children abandoned, 1,000 less children criminals, 1 million less children victims to this injustice. And instead, more children would be welcomed home by families who will treat them with love, provide them with nourishment, house them in shelter, care for their safety, and allow for them to have a childhood. Now the call is great, but the answer is simple. It's a heart willing to serve and a courageous kind of love. It's open arms and open homes. At the Rohe Foundation, we advocate for adoption. As of 2016, 1.8 million children in the Philippines were considered abandoned or neglected. And out of that 1.8 million, only 1,818 were placed for adoption. So as a response, the Rohe Foundation aims to develop programs that provide holistic care for pregnant women in crisis, to rescue babies before they are abandoned and disowned, and to encourage and guide families in their adoption journeys. Through this, we hope to see a world where every orphan is adopted into a family, and that all families would be empowered to move in compassion and generosity toward children in need of families. Because at the end of the day, family is the answer.
I didn't carry Milana in my womb for 9 months, but in my heart and in my soul, I've carried her way more than 9 months. She's been a product of our years of prayer and years of conversations with God, and she's ours. You know, she's ours, really and truly. Like, she's ours. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you get what I mean.
When I was asked that question, no, I realized na, oh nga, how did I overcome that? I think by just God appointing me. He's mine. Moses is mine. God qualified me by giving him to me. So, dun pa lang, nakakalma na yung fears ko na, oh nga, I'm his real mom. Ako yung mom niya. God already qualified me for it. So, he gave Moses to me, so I'm the real mom. And regardless of what happens in the future, my son wanted to meet his biological family one day.
Being a mom starts with really the decision once you say yes. Because people are so afraid to say yes because they want to feel like the mom first. No, you say yes. And then you'll feel like a mom. You'll just feel that protective side of you, I guess.
Well, I would advise parents who adopted their child to tell their adopted child as early as possible. You know, the younger, the better. You know, and let them say it in a positive way that they're a gift from God.
I think it's teaching me, like I said earlier, just the heart of God is all about sacrifice, and he left the 99 to go after the one. He sacrificed his son to adopt, and learning how to love first with Chloe, and understanding that kind of sacrificial love where it's not about biology, and it's about deciding and choosing, and that it's a privilege. It's really teaching me, you know, that love is action. Love is sacrifice.
It's not about just providing for your family. It's not providing for your family. It's about raising the next generation and allowing them to, you know, to be impacted by Jesus the way Jesus impacted you. You know, and how you model that. And how can you model if you're not home? How can you model and mentor if you're not home?
Actually, we coin it this way. First, we say, bring your mission home.
Okay.
Everybody has a mission by heart, right? And can't figure out what my mission is. And everyone knows, okay, I give my tithes, I give my money, but there's something I want to do on my own. But I can't go to Timbuktu, I can't go to Africa, I can't go, what's my mission? So we coined the phrase. I say it's very simple, bring your mission home.
One way or another, God's going to make sure He's going to provide for you, for your needs, for that child's need. Just do the right part. You know, someone once said, stop asking God to bless what you're doing. Find out what God's doing because it's already blessed. So I think that's we all need to look at, okay, let's not look at what's in front of us as far as finances and our circumstance and all this. Let's just do it, and God's going to bless it somehow, some way. Let's just trust God that He's going to come through for us.
So my advice to all fathers out there, and of course to all parents who be parents, is that just be ready for it, because it's not going to be easy. Sure, yeah. But of course, all the fun that you have and the love that you're going to get from your children makes it worth it. And it's I mean, I'll do it 10 times over just to have that feeling of, you know, of having children who love you and call you daddy and call you mommy. That's priceless. You can't put a price tag on that.
I mean, 1.8 million of orphans, neglected, abandoned children. If one church could provide one family, I think by the grace of God, we can see no more orphans in our nation.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Krina. So glad that you are able to join us today for another live chat. Really excited about today because we have with us a guest who we've been hoping to get on the show for quite some time now. So the time has come and I'm really excited for you to hear from them. But before we do get started, I do have a couple of reminders and some stuff that we just wanted to run through with everybody who's joining us. If you are joining us for the very first time, my name is Krina, and I work with Rohe Foundation. We're an advocacy that's mission is really to create a culture that celebrates adoption, the beauty of adoption, and helps equip families for their adoption journey. So today we have a really nice, inspiring adoption story, which you'll hear in a little bit. But before we get to that, we do want to encourage you guys to share this with your friends and your contacts. If you're online and you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, we really encourage you to share this. If you could share this stream, you can do that by hosting a watch party or tagging people in the comment sections. I think any way that you find best to get the word across. Our heart and our hope is that this would reach as many people as possible, especially those who are interested in this topic. So please go ahead and do that now. And if you do have any questions throughout the duration of the show, we'll be watching the chat box. So feel free to to just type them out there, and we will make sure that we respond to you before the show's over. A couple of other announcements, things happening in all throughout the month is adoption consultations. Rohi Foundation runs, like I mentioned, adoption consultations, which helps equip families for their adoption journey. If you have questions, whether about the emotional aspect and preparedness that is required to adopt, or the more technical questions like the process, how do I get started, what are the requirements, things like that. Whatever your questions might be, we encourage you to sign up for a consultation. These happen all throughout the week. And we open more and more slots on a monthly basis. So feel free to visit this link, and that'll take you to a quick form that you can fill out, and it'll help you schedule that right away. So we hope to meet you at one of those consults. Secondly is this Friday night, June 18th at 6 p.m., we are co-hosting a webinar called Foster Care, and it's really foster care for OSEC survivors. This is in partnership with IJM, as well as DSWD, Northville, and the Parenting Foundation. And the heart behind this is really to educate a general audience on OSEC. OSEC, O-S-E-C, stands for the Online Sexual Exploitation of Children. It's real, it's happening, it's a growing problem. And because of that, there's a greater and greater need for foster families, licensed foster families that can respond to children who are in need of temporary, sometimes permanent homes. So if this is something you're interested in, please do join us on the 18th at 6 p.m. That's this coming Friday. There is a QR code that is flashed on the screen right now. I'll give you guys a second to scan that if that's something you're interested in. If you miss it, no worries. It shows up on the Rohe Foundation Facebook page and Instagram page. You can go there, and that'll direct you to the link as well to get more information. But please join us live. Unlike our live chats, this Friday night's event will not be available for viewing after the event itself. So it'll be a closed call on Zoom, a closed webinar on Zoom. And so we do encourage you to register and to join us then. I think it's going to be a really inspiring time. And it'll be a real privilege to hear about this issue and about how we could all respond and take part in the restoration of OSEC survivors. So that's that. That's it for our announcements. Today's live chat is we're gearing up for Father's Day. That's this coming Sunday. I hope you guys all have some really great plans for your dads this coming Sunday. But we wanted to celebrate by having this father-daughter duo come on and share their story. It's not every day. I know we're kind of used to we usually hear from the moms, but I believe there's a crucial role that fathers play, especially in an adoption story and in the life of a child. And so really excited to, for the first time ever, have a father-daughter tandem on today's live chat. So without further ado, let me introduce them to you. Today we'll be hearing from Robby de Luzuriaga and his daughter C. I'll tell you a bit about Robby first. Robby, he's actually a full-time entrepreneur, but he is also a passionate adoption advocate and the president of Philippines Without Orphans. He also sits as a regional ambassador and part of the Global Advisory Council for World Without Orphans. He's also a board member of Pamilya Muna Pilipinas, and he and his wife, Monica, are proud parents to 4 boys and 2 girls. They'll tell you a little bit more about their family dynamic later. But the eldest of his daughters is C, who you see in the photo. I was just telling them that I love this photo with the matching plaid shirts. C is the eldest of his 6 kids. She's currently a dentistry student at University of the East. But while she's studying, she is also a board member and the corporate secretary and treasurer of Philippines Without Orphans. All that to say, she is just like her dad, and a passionate adoption advocate, and really, really wholeheartedly committed to sharing the beauty of adoption to the world around them and sharing their story in hopes that it would inspire more and more people. So without further ado, let's welcome Robby and C.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Krina.
Hi, guys. Hi. All right. I am waiting till I can hear you a little bit better.
Okay, so how about we give this a
So
shot?
great to have you.
Can you hear us now?
I think I'm going to need you guys to adjust your mic. Can you do that? We're having a little bit of trouble hearing you. Okay, but there's Robby and C. We'll give them a minute.
So are we good now?
All right. Okay, great. Better.
Okay.
Okay. Hi. Well, sorry. I think the tech problem was on my end. Good to see you guys again. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy Father's Day in advance, Robby.
Thank you. It's such a privilege to be able to join you guys. So thank you for having us.
Well, likewise, like I mentioned, I think this is something that we've been hoping we would have the opportunity to do together for a long time now. And we're so glad that you guys agreed and were gracious enough to accept our invitation. But you guys have any plans for this weekend? What is the Father's Day plan at the De Luzuriaga household? Is there...
I think that's more for the daughter to answer, actually. She's made this starting last year to make sure that we celebrated everything with her touch. I guess with her touch, yeah. So she's taken the lead. She stepped up in the family and decided that everyone gets to celebrate everything special.
Yeah.
With her watching over it.
Yeah. Because I really want to make sure that every event should be celebrated well. So that's what I committed to the family this year. That okay, every event, special event, we will like decorate and celebrate it together. So the boys and I, the boys and I, we had a plan, but of course we won't share it.
Reveal it. That's totally fine. But it's nice to know that you guys are. I'm sure it's going to be a great celebration. Let us know afterwards, Robby, if you get surprised. But I think that's so great. That's so cute. I mean, especially now during the pandemic, it's nice to just celebrate at home, find every opportunity to celebrate. So it's so cool of you to do that. So just to get started, I know a little bit about your story, but I would like to share that with everybody else. Can we just start by having both of you share a little bit about how C became a part of your family, Robby, and C, maybe at the same time from your perspective, what that journey was like into you being adopted into the family?
Sure. So we'd known C for a while. My wife Monica was discipling her, and then I was actually asked to help mentor her from a professional standpoint. So we did know her, and then so my wife and I were usually discipling couples, or engaged couples. So both married couples and engaged couples, and then she was an outlier because Monica found out that she didn't have a discipler. So Monica said, "Why not me?" And that's where it began. And from that point onwards, she started becoming close with the family. She developed a relationship with the boys. We just had 2 older boys at that time. And one day after discipleship, she was hanging out at home with us. And she just told us that she had a secret that she'd been keeping all her life. And she just decided that we were trustworthy enough for her to tell us. And, I won't go into detail about that now. But that's how that started. That was a Sunday. And come Friday, so we escalated the concern. At church, we talked to so many people. And come Friday, news got out on her side, and we had 3 hours to decide what to do with her. So she had no clue what was going to happen, neither did we. And Monica and I just talked to her, and we told her, we're going to see you through, no matter what. That was the short of it. That was the short.
Yeah. And I think what's really interesting about that is because actually what you didn't get to mention was we're used to stories and adoption stories happening with younger children, right? And actually the clincher here was that C was not even a child at this point, right? How old were you at this point, C, when when you had first met Robby and Monica, and they were discipling you?
I think I was 19 years old, right?
19.
Yeah, I was 19, yeah. And then they got me when I was 20.
That was kind of when the adoption was somewhat formalized, right, for you guys as a family, and there was a more formal arrangement. But what was the experience like for you? Was that something you were thinking about? So I can imagine it starts, right, someone's just mentoring you, and they're helping you walk with God. And did you ever expect that Monica would become your mom? What was going through your mind, and how did that progress from I trust these people to they're now my parents?
Well, actually, at the start, I kind of view them as my spiritual parents already. So, but the difference is obviously, like, I didn't expect that I will be like officially like I'll move into their family. That's what I really didn't expect. So, in terms of relationship, I really view them already as my spiritual father and mother, because that's how they really trained me, and that's what they committed, right?
To do, yeah.
To do, yeah. So at the start, it was like that. The setup was like that, but towards the end, like, I really felt safe, and I I don't know what happened during that time, but I just felt like, okay, I need to trust them fully, and then I really want to commit myself to them. So there, and then here we are now. Here we are now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really like the shortest answer that we can really give you for now. So there.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I think it's a really incredible story, because, like I mentioned, we don't hear stories like this often of adults, even being, I guess, at 19. Or I wonder if you were even looking for a family or looking for parents at this point in your life, right? Was it something that was there still that longing in you to be parented, and to kind of be brought into a family? Maybe you could take us into what was going through your mind at that point in your life as a 19-year-old.
Okay. During that time, I was already working. I was working, and then I was really hungry for a mentor, like a leadership, because I really don't have that in my life. So
Right.
by the time that I met them, that's really where I saw that I can be like fully how do I say it? Like attached to them, and really like have a parent, because basically I don't really have an idea of how a father figure looks like, and then how a mother figure looks like. Basically, there's no relationship. There's no true relationship, and it's with really the two of them that I really saw and feel. Actually, it's just a feeling that I really feel safe, and I can really trust them, and I can just really be myself. So I think that really helped, that I felt that I was safe.
Safe.
With them.
Right.
Yeah. And then during that time, I remember, since I was 19 and working, normally when you're 19, you're in school, right? You're in college.
Right.
In my life, during that time, I was working, and that I know that there's something is really missing in my life. So I really how do I say, like, paid attention to it, and then I saw an opportunity which moved them. So I really grabbed that opportunity.
Right. I think, well, yeah, I mean, I think I can imagine it to be kind of it was kind of like an unexpected turn of events, right? And when Robby sits you down, and Monica, when they sit you down and they say, hey, you know what, we want to see you through, and we love you, and we want you to be part of our family. For a 19-year-old, it's not typically something they're still thinking about, right? And Robby, on your end, maybe you could walk us through the process that you and Monica and your family went through, and then making that big step from, we're mentoring this girl, we're mentoring C, and we love her, and she's great with our family, to, okay, we want you to become one of us, and we want you to belong and become a part of what we have. How did that transition for you and your wife?
Yeah, so for Monica and myself, it really started 5 years before C, where I was still in the corporate world at that time, and I received this strange email of one of my staff telling me that we were going to an orphanage and I was going to get to pick my orphan, basically. So I didn't know how to respond to that. I was like, that's a strange question. So I said, give me the worst. And I was bracing myself, right? And what I got was a 12-year-old girl. So after that, I talked to the orphanage director and asked what was wrong. And the answer I got was she's 12. And I couldn't figure out why that was the problem. So long story short, I discovered that once you turn 4 in an orphanage, it's like a death sentence, because it means there's a high chance that you're not getting adopted, right? So from that point onwards, we started doing our research and we got more involved with orphanages. And I was thinking that I'd put up the biggest and baddest orphanage in the Philippines. And, I was thinking that it would be epic, like different from everyone else. That's the entrepreneur in me, right? Thinking that I'd do something like that. So I was thinking that way, and we, of course, wanted a newborn. And the Lord started working in our hearts, saying, what if you don't get the newborn? Would you still follow me? And we slowly adjusted. We were like, okay, Lord, 2 years old, 4 years old, that's it. By the time we were done, we were already saying, okay, Lord, up to, we'd say yes to a 14-year-old. And then the Lord broke us, and just before C, Monica and I were like, you know what, whatever it is that the Lord provides, whether from the Philippines or another country, let's just say yes to him. And a miracle happened, and C crossed our paths.
So is it correct for me to say that actually adoption was something, it was in your hearts before you had met C? And, it was just a matter of, I guess God taking you on that journey and opening up your hearts to consider, from first a newborn to a slightly older and a little bit older than that, and then a little bit older than that. And then until we're just open, Lord, whatever you bring our way, we're ready for that.
We did take action with the little that we knew. So we did try building relationships with 2 boys and 2 girls. They were around 12 to 14 years old. Somehow those didn't pan out, right? The kids got moved. We didn't know where they went, and so on and so forth. It just didn't happen. And then a couple of years after, C happened. The impossible happened, really. We didn't see it coming at all.
Right. And at this time, I didn't get you to introduce your family yet. So maybe you could share, just for context and everybody to understand the big family dynamic, maybe you could first start by introducing the kids. I know you had sons before you had C, and then a couple more sons after that, right? So maybe you could let us meet everybody.
Sure. Yeah, so
we'll flash that photo. There you go.
Okay, so if you look to your screen, I'll go by age first with the boys. So our oldest boy is Santino. He's wearing the white shirt on the left. He's 15 years old. And then his not so little brother on the far right, Vito, is 13. And then the little guy with a plaid shirt and the khaki pants with the chinos is Javier. He's 8 years old. And then the little guy beside him is Fernando, who's 6 years old. And then, of course, we have C she's on my left. She's wearing the maroon dress. That's C. And then our not so little girl, besides Santino, on the other side is Cyril, who's 20 years old. And then, of course, the other lady there is my ex-girlfriend, who is now, right? That's Monica.
There you go. Yeah, you and Monica in the middle. Right. Okay, well, thank you. I thought it's really nice to see this photo. I know this is an updated, a very, very recent family photo. And I know Cyril, actually, as you mentioned, is your kind of like your youngest child, but not the youngest member of the family at 20 years old. Do you want to tell us a little bit about Cyril?
Sure. Yeah. Cyril is, in terms of family age, is turning 2 weeks old tomorrow. So she's fresh out the boat, so to speak. She's 20 years old. She just finished 11th grade, and we just finished career counseling her. She decided that she also wants to be a dentist, so we're making a couple of changes. So she basically is
She's
going to
gonna
be like,
follow in T's footsteps.
yep, that's what she decided to do. So that's kind of the latest and greatest that we've got in terms of updates for Cyril.
That's great. Well, thank you for sharing that. I know that it's very fresh. We just don't want anybody to be confused by the family dynamic, right? And I think that it really speaks so much about your family and your heart to build your family this way. I think nothing about the way you've chosen to build your family is accidental. Maybe it seemed like things happened fast, unexpected maybe, but certainly not accidental, because I think your heart for adoption and your heart for the orphans of our nation is something that's very evident because of the work that you do. So maybe you guys could tell us, I think you both consider yourselves adoption advocates, and maybe before we move into your father-daughter relationship, maybe you could share with us a little bit about PWO, World Without Orphans, and the involvement that you both have in those organizations.
Sure. So Philippines Without Orphans is an organization that started a little over 5 years ago. It's the result of research that I did. I started trying to serve orphans in orphanages, and I tried to learn a little more through research, both locally and internationally. And then I came across their website, maybe possibly 10 years ago, or a little less. And I started stalking them from that point onwards. And then when the adoption happened, I saw in their website that they were going to have a global forum. And I was going back and forth with whether I should show up in person or not. And at the last minute, I decided not to show up in person. And I just attended online, right? Because I wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do. But somewhere in the middle of that, Bishop F. Tendero, he's a Filipino. He was the former leader of the World Evangelical Council. He made a statement that resonated very strongly with me at the point that he was speaking. He said, we need champions. We need a national leader for every nation in the world. So I started looking at what else I could see on my screen, and there's a chat box. So I just clicked on it, because by that time I was exploding internally already, right? Telling myself I have to do something. So I sent a message to World Without Orphans, and I said, hey, can you tell me if there's a national leader in the Philippines? Because I want to go and support that leader. And if we don't have one in the Philippines yet, my exact words were, you may have found your guy. That's the message that I sent them. Right. And soon after that, to my disbelief, I think shock and disbelief, one of the guys who started it, Ruslan Maluta, reached out to me. And then we talked, and I talked about, all the challenges and the shock that I was having from the adoption. And he said, I'm flying over. This guy's Ukrainian, by the way. He's like, I'm flying over to meet you. So he came to the Philippines, and he stayed here for a week. And I brought him around. I brought him to businessmen. I brought him to meet, I remember, Cayetano. We went to, I think it was Congress while session was going on, and we sat down. And so we did all of that. And he was the first person to tell me, because I got all kinds of reactions from people because of the adult adoption the first time around, right? Mm-hmm. So I had people telling us, it was extreme. Some people were like, you deserve a medal, you deserve a trophy. And there were literally people that were telling us you're going to hell, right? So it was a very broad range of reactions from people. And he was the first one to tell me, Rob, you're not crazy. You're right, and you need to keep going. And that's how that really started. The other part there is when I sent the message, they told me there's this Filipina in the Philippines. She's a missionary married to an American. Look for this lady named Malen, right? Malen Papadopoulos. So I looked for her, and she started bringing people, invited her to our home, and that's how Philippines Without Orphans started.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Malen's an activator, and she's amazing. She has a huge heart for the orphans as well, and yep, she's watching.
Hey, Malen.
And it's always good to talk to Malen about this because her heart really, really, really is for the orphan and for God's purposes in this area. But I want to touch on a few things that you mentioned, Robby. You mentioned that when he told you that you're not crazy. Why did that resonate with you so much? And why was that so meaningful at that point? You're saying it's quite recent since you had adopted C, and there were opposing views. You were getting both sides of the spectrum in terms of feedback and comments on it. But could you tell us a little bit more about that? Because it's not common, right? What you did was not common.
Yeah. The biggest reason why that mattered so much was because people who we deeply cared about, friends that we'd had for 20 years, ministry partners, people we've been walking with faithfully for 20 years, were telling us, you're out of your minds. I even had someone tell me, Rob, and these were his exact words, he said, you have a perfectly godly family. Why bring in a problematic person? So there were people that were telling us, you're making a huge mistake. It's a bad idea. So that people were literally organizing meetings to either meet with me every day, or there were people organizing meetings so they could meet to talk about us.
Yeah.
So, and with all those people telling you that you're crazy, and then I had this firm conviction, and so did Monica, right? We were like, no, we're absolutely sure that this is from the Lord. But we wanted to be objective, right? So we listened to what everybody had to say, despite all the opposing views, right?
Right.
So that's why. And then this guy came up who'd been around the world working with several dozen national leaders and all kinds of organizations from around the world, saying, you're not crazy, right? So that really made a difference.
Yeah. Someone to reassure you, and somebody who's probably walked a similar path and or has walked with people who have walked a similar path as you. And I think that's one of the challenges here in the Philippines, that adoption of older children, even more so adults, right? Adult adoption is so uncommon that people who would even consider it could just be terrified and completely paralyzed by fear to even be able to step into it. And I think that's the power of hearing stories like yours, where you've walked the path and you've said, sure, it wasn't easy, but look at us now. And yeah, did you want to say something? Did you want to add to that?
I just remembered something, Krina, and I wasn't really sure if I was going to share this out in the open, right? But I just decided to do it because it's the truth. I remember, just to add to your question of why not being crazy was a thing for us, I got accused by some people that we loved. And then after I got accused, my wife got accused for being lesbian, actually. So that was a really big deal, right, for us. And then at some point I had to step up and protect my wife, apart from the rest of the family, because that's how shocked people were, right? And can you imagine, we're doing this for a second time, right? We just did. So I'm sure it's going to be another fun ride.
Right. And I think I just want to add to what you're saying, because I've heard this part of your story before. And I think, you were really unfairly accused of basically adopting for the wrong reasons, right? And having hidden intentions for pursuing the adoption of C. And It's so sad, I think, that people would even dare to say things like that, or to take your well-meaning step of faith and twist it that way. But I guess the reality is, people just don't understand. It doesn't happen enough for people to know what this looks like, and that it can be done in a healthy way, and that it's possible for families to be built, and for children and adults to be added into families for the sake of family.
Exactly.
Right? And yeah.
Yeah, Karina, I totally agree with you. You know, what we're doing and what we've done is not pop culture. So there could be a shock factor. But at the end of the day, we can talk about helping orphans all we want, right? We can give them the wealth of the world and all this fame and power. And at the end of the day, they're still going to be orphans, right? You give an orphan family and they're no longer an orphan. And people, remember at the time, people were like, why don't you get a younger kid? Right? And they said, she's already an adult. She's not an orphan. And I said, she is an orphan. It's the exact same situation, except she's older. So hitting the age of majority and turning 18 does not suddenly make you a non-orphan. You're still an orphan. Right? And if that's never addressed, then you're going to be an orphan all your life. It doesn't, turning into an adult does not make it better. It just changes your situation, but you're still an orphan.
Right. I mean, I'm aware that now, we're talking about this, and you're talking about the hard journey that you and Monica and your family went on in adopting C. But C, from your perspective, what was that like for you, that transition period of being welcomed into the family? Were you thrilled? Were you not sure about how you felt? Love to hear from your side what it was like, those years of, maybe those first few years of transitioning in and becoming a daughter. What was that like for you?
Well, as of right now, we can just smile and laugh at it, right? But during those times, it was really hard and painful. I think I can say that, because every day, by the time that they decided to take me in, I don't actually remember pretty much. I mean, a lot of stuff, because it was really crazy.
It was very traumatizing.
It was very traumatizing also for me, because I really
so you were aware. You were aware of what people were saying. You were aware of the pushback that friends and family were giving. And
actually, I think that's one thing. That's a good thing if you're also an adult and you move into a family, because you can really remember and you can process it with your parents. Like, for example, during that situation when, dad and mom are also we're having accountability also, because they also need to update me what's happening, because we know that our situation is really not normal. It's really not normal for everyone, right? So we know that a lot of change, but during those times it was really traumatic for me. So
I think, sorry to jump in, I know where you're headed with that, and I just want to help her articulate that. It was the most traumatic part for us were the external influences. The people around us that were attacking, saying you have to do what we say, and then somebody else comes with the exact opposite opinion, saying you have to do it this way. And we had to respond to every single one of those for every day for 2 years.
Yeah, it was an everyday battle for us. Like, there was a time that I already told dad na parang, pwede bang tayo na lang? Like, huwag na natin isama ibang tao sa buhay natin, because it was really crazy. Like, if I think about it, and then if I really dwell in that emotion, I think I don't know,
you would have gone crazy.
Yeah, because hearing those things every day, literally every day, can really it can cause you to think unnecessary stuff also, and then it may also question your decision. Because before, I just really want a family, and then I just decided to commit myself to them, and then they committed themselves to me. Even the boys, they're genuinely like they really genuinely love me. I thought that's like bed of roses, unicorns and butterflies. But it's not like it's
Yeah.
really not. I really got surprised, but
Yeah.
again, we're really here.
But it's been so it's been 6 years though, and I want to just now you have the benefit of hindsight, right, and seeing things from that time and seeing where God has taken your family, and what was it like? I mean, see, I'm sure you've seen. I want to hear from you what it was like to see your mom and your dad fight for you, and to say it's hard, but we're not leaving you and you're not leaving us and we're going to stick together. What did that do for you as an adult, but also as a daughter, right? Because I think like your dad was mentioning, just because you were an adult, your status changed from orphan to daughter. And in that, I'm curious to find out what was the feeling of finally having a family that is standing up for you. You have a safe place, and they're saying, we're here to fight for you, and we're not going to leave you, and you're not going to leave us. What was it like for you to be in your shoes?
Well, there's a lot of things that I really can say about that, but my one-liner answer for now that I can think of is really commitment, and it is really commit. Their commitment was really a big deal for me because having a family really helped me as a person. Um,
It's okay.
yeah, there are a lot of things that I want to say, but I'm not sure if.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It's okay.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's just that. I mean, adoption is really not easy, and being adopted also is not easy. But right now, looking back, I can really the things that I learned from my parents. Um,
It's okay. I mean, I just want to say that I think I really admire your courage. And I know it's a hard question. I'm sorry about that. I think the reason I want to ask is I believe there are others like you, and hearing it from your perspective, I think really sheds light on the need for everyone, for all orphans, whether they're 2 or 22 or 32, to have someone call them family and fight for them. And I think your family is just a beautiful example of that. And I mean, I think I can tell just through the tears that it's overwhelming to just have walked the path that you guys have walked in the last 6 years. But yeah, thank you for your courage.
But Krina, it's a valid question, and I think it's a good question, and I know my daughter. I know that she wants to answer it. But do you want to? Do you want to go ahead? Do you think? Yeah, she's
It's
just
okay.
saying, remind her of the question so she can answer.
It's okay. Yeah, I just wanted to know, like, what does it feel like now that it's been 6 years? Looking back on the journey and knowing that someone needed to fight for you, and knowing that you now have that. You now have parents that have fought for you in the last 6 years. What does that do for you, even as an adult? How does that help you walk through life, knowing that? You want to come back to it? We'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. But I mean, I think I like I said, I just really wanted to say I really admire your courage. You know, it's not an easy thing to talk about. But maybe Robby, do you want to share a little bit about that and what it was like, you know, for your family and you know, just from your perspective with C. I know it's kind of emotional, but
Yeah.
what was that like? And what's the power of that? Not just for C, but for children, orphans in general, whose status changes at an adult age from orphan to daughter or son. What's the power of adoption there?
Okay. Yeah. So I'm not gonna cry. My eyes are sweating a little bit, but I'm okay. I think, yeah, it's a little difficult right now, but I think going back to, maybe we can go back to the question that you asked her. Maybe I can answer that first, right? It's
Sure.
in hindsight, you know, how do I feel about it? How does it look like? She's a completely different person. Things have changed so much, and looking back, all I can say is that everything was worth it. Everything. What I didn't share earlier, Krina, was we lost everything. We lost our livelihood. We lost many friends. We lost Christian friends. We lost so much to stand up for it. But we were sure that it was our calling, right? So we did. And looking back, it was really worth it. And the funny thing is, over the last 6 years, a good number of those people called us up or asked to meet and said sorry.
Yeah, there was restoration there as well. And I guess they've seen and they've witnessed what the power of the decision you made. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't have done this again, meaning Cyril, right? We wouldn't have done this again if we think that we made a mistake or that it was a bad idea. But I think it's one of the best decisions we made. Not just for C, but also for our family, because what this resulted in is us really going deeper to get to know the Lord, right? Because we really had to dig deep into God's word when everyone was against us. I mean, there were many people who supported us as well from around the world. That's the part that I didn't highlight earlier. But from the point that we lost everything, the Lord literally sent the entire world to start reaching out and helping Monica, helping myself, helping C. So again, I'm saying it was worth it because apart from her and how and what we learned about walking with the Lord, we literally gained a world of friends. Literally. So has it been worth it? Oh yeah, definitely. And that's why we've done it again. Right? We just did.
Right. Yeah, thank you. I know it's a difficult question to answer. I thank you both for being so gracious and answering that. I know it's deeply personal, and the journey you've walked is one that you risked everything. Like you mentioned, you lost everything, you risked everything, and the impact of that, I think, is so far-reaching that, you know, maybe even in this lifetime, you may never know and see the full impact of the choice you made to do that. But yeah, go ahead.
I have to jump in. I don't want to end the story that way. I want to be able to highlight what the real result is. In a nutshell, we have more of everything now. Everything. More of everything. Much more of everything. Way more. Everything from the practical stuff to friends, everything. So God multiplied everything several times over. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Thank you. And I want to ask you, that as well as a father, you know, you've experienced this firsthand, fighting for your daughter and saying, you know, she's mine. You know, we might not be biologically related, but she's fully mine, and I'm going to fight for her just like I would fight for my sons. And you're doing that again with Cyril, and that's incredibly inspiring, I think. And I want to ask you from the perspective of an advocate, though. What's the impact of that, and why should people consider the same path, however hard it might be? Maybe you could tell us a little bit more now as the president of PWO, right? Why would you encourage people to walk that same path, even though it might be difficult, even though you could be misunderstood, right? Those are the realities. It's not normal. Maybe what advice would you have for families who might actually be like you, considering it now a little bit more open to the idea of adoption for an older child, or maybe even an adult?
Yeah, you know, I think the first answer for that is, to begin with, it is the right thing to do. Jesus came out to save people of all shapes and sizes and ages. You know, you don't stop saving or helping someone just because they turn 18, right? The battle is still ongoing, and things get worse as people get older. Meaning, C really would not have been in a good place if nobody helped, right? And it would have ruined not just her life, but it would have ruined generations of families. It would have helped contribute to the ruin of society, right? So I think from a big picture standpoint, those are the first two things I'd say, right? Number one, it's the right thing to do. It is Christ-like to adopt. It is Christ-like to help people who are in trouble. In fact, if you go and study James chapter 1, verse 27, it's such a famous verse, right? About true religion being caring for orphans. If you go down to the Greek of that, it means to look deeply, to look into what the deepest concerns of the orphan are and addressing it. And for me, one of the deepest concerns of an orphan is the fact that they don't have a family.
Right.
So acting in James 1:27 means you are giving somebody a family. So that would be my immediate take on it. Believe me, Krina, we can sit down and talk about that question for another hour, right? So I'm trying to give you the shortest answers that I can
I'm
give.
sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you guys have a lot of thoughts about this, and you've helped families as well who are considering this and journeying. And I just want to remind everybody who's watching that if you do have questions, you're welcome to type that out in the comment section. And if Robby and C, if we have time for them to answer that, they will get to that before we end the show. But maybe we can lighten things up, and you can tell us a little bit about just the father-daughter dynamic. What are the things that you guys do to bond, to get to know each other? How did you? Because it's kind of like you've been your dad's daughter for 6 years, even though you're not 6 years old, right? So the things you would typically do to bond with your daughter at a young age, I'm sure look different for you guys. Maybe you could share, how did that work for you guys in the bonding and the really forging that really close relationship that you guys have with each other?
You go.
Okay, I'll go. I can answer that. Okay, for me, our dynamics, like my dad and I, the moment that they committed their lives to me, we really started from like the very very beginning. They really treated me as a 1 month old baby. We really started that way, and I think Dad can explain it because hindi naman ako breastfeed. More of the relationship and then the attachment. We really started that way. Like they taught me. There are a lot of things that I realized that I didn't know. So it was I think for me it was a good thing that dahil nga madami akong hindi alam, it was them who really taught me how to do things.
Can I jump in?
Sure.
Yeah, so I understand what she's trying to say.
Yeah.
So to piggyback on what she's saying first, to add to what she's saying, we saw what was wonderful about her, but we also saw the delays. And
Yeah.
initially, it broke our hearts. And then over time, the Lord changed our perspectives because we realized that we had an adult daughter, but God also gave us a little girl to deal
Right.
with. So for her to say starting at 1 month, Monica has a background in psychology. So she understands there's something that is not addressed developmentally. You can go
Sure.
back and start addressing that. So that's what she was trying to say. We looked at what needed to be addressed that should have been addressed actually
Yeah, that's true.
from day one,
Right.
and we made that our baseline. We started from there, and then we moved from there. So in terms of your questions of how do our dynamics look like, you are a daddy's girl.
Yeah, I am a daddy's girl.
Yeah,
I think everybody knows that.
everyone who knows us knows
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Yeah, she does follow me everywhere, and she's always wanted to be trained by me. So that's why she does run certain things in Philippines Without Orphans. We go do a lot together. I get pulled into shopping, all kinds of stuff. Yeah, you can talk about that a little more if you want to.
Yes.
Oh wow! Tell us about these pictures. It looks like you guys are having a lot of fun together.
Oh yeah, you want to talk about
Yeah,
the one
you
on the
go
left?
first.
I'll go
Yes,
first.
yeah.
What do you want to talk about?
No, the right.
The one on the left.
Yeah.
The one on the right was the trip to Japan.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so I'll talk about the one on the right was our trip to Japan before the
Okay.
lockdown. Yeah, it was a family vacation. That was her first time to go out of the country with the entire family.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was really interesting to take my daughter through Japan. Krina, can you imagine the busyness of the trains and Shinjuku and all those parts, right? And then it was her first time to see snow and to experience snow, and we were able to go through that together as a family
That's
and also
amazing.
on the team. Yeah.
Oh,
So
no, that's
you
such a great pictures.
you want to talk about the one with the motorcycle helmets on and the
Oh.
jacket?
Okay, I can talk about that.
That one.
Okay. So I think it was dad and I, we have this it's a regular thing, because given that I'm studying dentistry and then my course is really stressful, I really like have a request like every sem ender, instead of enjoying time with friends, I want to go out with him and do crazy things. So in this photo, it was a ride going to Subic, because my dad had a bike, and then I requested if we can go to Subic riding his bike. So that's the one in the left photo there.
Yeah, so she kept badgering me to go full throttle. So I had this girl screaming behind me saying more, 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 right?
Yeah.
And that was the Subic trip. And then we went there. Then we just ate. I took her around Subic a bit, then we rode back.
That's really cool. I mean, I think what's really nice about the relationship that you guys have is it's almost as if you've been given these opportunities to make up for lost time.
Yeah.
And to have the memories that you might have had as a little girl, like, riding on her motorcycle with her dad, and, just the two of you guys going out and exploring Subic, or, family vacations. And it feels like, God's been so good to you guys, and he's, in a sense, made up for some lost time.
Yep.
And I think that it's just really moving to see those photos, because you see a genuine love between the two of you, and a father-daughter relationship that's so healthy and strong, even however young it may be. right? The relationship there.
Yeah, and Karina, one thing I'd like to share with everyone is, after 6 or 6.5 years or so, it, the only time we talk about her being adopted is when we're advocating for it. But like for the two of us, I I don't want to speak for everyone, but I probably can. But I'll just speak for the two of us. It really doesn't feel like we got her at 20. It's like we've always been together. There's been no difference between the boys and her. Nothing really. I mean, she asks for the same things. We do the same things together. I used to have boys' time before the lockdown. We had our own daddy-daughter dates, right? I'd wine and dine my only daughter at the time, right? Just it's a homeschooling opportunity, really, is what it is, apart from a mother-daughter experience. So we did everything that normal parents did, and we were intentional about building experiences together, right? Beating the 20 or so terrible years with the last 6 years. So we think it's important to build experiences and memories together. So we did that on purpose.
Yeah, and also to add to that, given that I'm the child, I think the good thing about them, mom and my dad, they really I never felt that I'm different. And then also, since they're teaching that to the boys also know how to deal with me. So it was really a good, it is a good environment for me that I can really explore with them. And then I think that's one thing that I want to share, that here in our home, like it that's why before it was really hard for me to hear external comments of people about our decision. I just really want to focus on our family because I never felt different. And I think that's how it should be, right? Because
Yep.
it's just really a genuine love and care for a child, and that's really what happened here. And that's what's happening now also. So I'm just happy that I'm on the other side now, that I can finally, like, whatever I learned from 6 years, I can finally do it to my new sister. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's one thing I'm really excited to explore. That the things that happened to our family before, now I can look back and then review and apply what I've learned to my new sister now.
Because it's going full circle, Krina. We were talking about this before Cyril arrived. She used to be the Cyril, right? She was the one on the other side getting adopted. This time around, she was part of the selection process, the prayer, and the planning, and everything going on. And now that Cyril's adjusting, she's on the other side, seeing herself in Cyril's situation. And she was saying, it's so strange to be on this side of things, right? But she is.
Wow, that's really powerful. I mean, I'm really moved by that. I think it's like your identity has completely changed, right? And echoing what Robby, you mentioned, like she's just a different person, and the security that the family has provided. And I when I hear from you, see over and over, is it's just you just had the safe place. The family was really just the safe place. In a sense, what people were saying on the outside could have been painful, but there was a safe place inside. The home was a safe place for everyone, and you felt safe and accepted and loved, and that's undeniable now, hearing you speak, and really excited for the experience you're gonna have now with your sister Cyril. So we're very excited for you. I know that we're a little bit over time, but I do want to just let you guys, before letting you guys go, maybe just some advice or what encouragement would you have? A lot of people that watch us are just starting to open up to the idea of adoption. A lot of them are maybe considering it very ever so casually. We're not sure. It seems like a good idea, but we need a little bit of help, or we have a lot of questions still. And what would what would your thoughts be about that, or what encouragement would you have for them to maybe even consider older kids or those who are no longer minors?
Sure. And maybe I can say this not just from a local or national standpoint, but from a global standpoint, because I've met people who have done this, other people who have gone ahead and are successful. I've also met some of the kids who have experienced it, and I think that I'll share my sentiment first. The immediate sentiment is what I said earlier. It's worth it. So in terms of advice, I think what's important is that you build your conviction first. Be convinced that you are doing the right thing. I mean, don't just sit down and use your own logic. Do your research if you need to, right? Find out what you get from an older orphan versus or an older child versus a younger child. In my case, I think in summary, what I got is what I shared earlier, right? I got the little girl and I got the full-blown adult, right? And that's got wonderful privileges, right? Because on the one end, she gets to serve with me. We get to take care of orphans. We get to advocate for family and do all these things. On another end, I really started from scratch with many different aspects of her life. So I did get to go through. And I know that for a fact because I have 4 boys, right? Who I started with from day one. So I really went through the same thing, except this one was a daughter. So it's get informed, ask questions, but ultimately just make sure you solidify your conviction. When you get into it, there are textbook commonalities of pros and cons with getting an older child. And once you're aware of that, I think you add that to your conviction, and you can go ahead and not even just take a step forward, but go ahead and run. Right? And aside from that, I'd say make sure to focus on living refreshed. Right? Don't kill yourself trying to fix every single problem. Focus on building. Because building changes things. Building causes transformation, right? Fixing just settles something and then you move on to something else that you need to fix. So you're going to need to fix, but at the end of the day, focus on building.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks, Robby. C, do you want to say anything?
Yeah.
Any encouragement for families? I guess if you could speak of other maybe adults that could be waiting or hoping or shoes that you would have been in had you not been adopted.
So, Karina,
what's your encouragement?
I'm sorry, you were a little choppy there, so I'm going to try and reword that statement. So you're basically asking C if she has any encouragement for the parents or would-be parents that are considering older child adoption, right?
Sure. Yes, let's go with that. Can anything that...
Oh, okay. For me, I know it's not a normal situation, but if really there's an opportunity that you can or can be adopted as an adult, I think you can just really grab that opportunity because in a family there's a lot of things that you can learn, and then I think the one important thing that you can learn and have is really an identity. So for me, I think one word is identity, which is important.
Okay, how about for the parents who are considering, should we get a 13-year-old or a 16 or a 20-year-old? Like, C, do you have any advice for them or any encouragement for them? Yeah, no, because that's part of the question.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay. I thought.
Yeah, I haven't replaced Karina.
He's hosting now. Yeah.
No, for me, age is really, it doesn't really matter because what Dad said, even if I was 20 back then, but my developmental delays got, I think I view myself as what, 1-year-old, 2 years old. So age is really not an issue in terms of adoption, and that's really one thing that we can, like, how can I say,
Testify.
testify.
Yeah.
So
Or
there.
confirm,
Oh
right?
yes, confirm.
Right. Thank you. I mean, your story speaks volumes. And just seeing and seeing you both together also speaks so much. Without words, no words required. Just seeing the close relationship that you guys have, I think really moves me, and I'm sure it's moving a lot of people who are watching. And thank you for your courage, your boldness, and sharing your story, and even the difficult seasons that you guys walk through. Our hope, our prayer is that, those who are watching this, that, God would continue to would start speaking to people, and people would be moved to walk a similar path, however unpopular it might be, to walk a similar path, and that we would see more and more older children, non-minors, being adopted into loving families like yours. So thank you so much, Robby and C. If people want to get in touch with you, they can get in touch with Philippines Without Orphans. And if they have any more questions about your story or about your ministry and the work that you guys do in the Philippines, please do visit Philippines Without Orphans. I think you're on Facebook. How can
Yes,
they
we are.
find Facebook?
Yes,
Okay, great.
Yep.
Thanks so much, Robby and C. What a
Thank you.
privilege, what a pleasure to chat with you this evening.
Likewise. Thanks for the privilege, Pina.
Thank you. All right. Well, there you go. Thanks, everyone, for sticking with us for the last just over an hour. It's hard to cut that conversation short. I mean, I was so inspired and moved by their story, and to see just the dynamic, the love that they have for each other. So feel free to share this with friends and family. This is available for rewatch. So in case you know somebody who might be interested in this, please do share this with them. It's going to stay available online. Last but not the least, just want to remind everybody about the foster care webinar this coming Friday. Here is the QR code and all the details. Hope you can join us for that. That's at 6 p.m. June 18th. It's a webinar on foster care for OSEC survivors. Please do join us for that. And advanced Happy Father's Day to all of the dads. Looking forward to talking to you guys again soon. If you have a story to share also, please feel free to share that with us. We would love to hear your adoption story and be able to share that here on one of our live chats. So thank you so much. Have a great evening, everybody. See you next time.